His secret fact is that when he was 7 years old, he basically convinced his kid sister to pay him all of her birthday money so that he could find the bugs, like the listening devices that Santa had left in her bedroom, which were just plastic things that he planted in advance. Please welcome Rick Jones.
I'm not that much of a jerk anymore. Wayne gave it up for all the other storytellers. Why don't we give it up for Marcia Shander for putting on the best storytelling show in Toronto, right? Oh my God. Okay, so I'll set the stage for you. It's a year and a half ago, August of 2013. I'm 15th in line waiting for one of the U.S. Customs booths at the border crossing of the Ambassador Bridge between Detroit and Windsor. And I'm not real happy about it because I'm going down on business. I have a day job, a day career, if you will, because this performing arts thing is just crazy lucrative. Do you remember what you paid to get in? I got a percentage of that. So I've got my day job, and that gets me across the border quite a lot. I actually do quite a great deal of business travel. I've been to 41 out of the 50 states. I've been to every province. I've been to every major city North America has, north of the Rio Grande. I've been all over the place. And so consequently, I do quite a lot of this border crossing stuff. So here I am, creeping ahead, one car at a time, about every 6 minutes, because of course I'm in the slowest line. You're always in the slowest line when you're at customs. It's kind of the rule of the universe. You're the guy behind the family of 17 on their 12-stop, largely undocumented flight from Uzbekistan. And it's a beautiful summer day, and I'm headed for a week worth of meetings in Toledo, Ohio, which if you've never been to, it's not nearly as cool as well, most places. And there I am, and I'm creeping along, and I don't want to be going there. I don't want to be there in this beautiful summer afternoon. It looks like it's going to be a gorgeous week, and be away from my family, away from my home, away from my fiance. I'm going to miss my kids and all that kind of stuff. But one thing I'm not worried about, folks, is crossing the border itself, because being an extremely experienced business traveler, this is actually something of a skill I have. I've been back and forth across the border a million times. There's 4 things that you got to know about crossing the border. Number 1, you got to know what they're looking for. When you're going down to the United States, they're looking to see whether or not you're a terrorist or you're stealing somebody's job. Right? When you're coming back into Canada, it's different. They want to know if you're smuggling in alcohol or tobacco, which tells you something about the relative level of anxiety in the two countries, I suppose. They have existential terror, and we're like, we need tax money from the booze and the smokes, eh? I'm patriotic. Point number 2, dress well. It's a good idea to go down business casual. I was, in fact, wearing this very purple shirt you see before you. I was also wearing nice khakis and, kind of dressy business shoes and stuff like that. You got to look the part. If you dress a little slouchy, they might think you're a drug smuggler. If you dress in like a tuxedo, they might think you're a drug smuggler with a really bad sense of how to disguise himself. Point number 3, be a white guy. I'm just saying white males are playing the video game of life at its lowest possible difficulty setting. It's unfair, but it's true. And point number 4, if you're going across for work, you gotta bore them, folks, because they're gonna ask what you do for work, and what you have to do when you describe what you do for work is adopt the sort of frantic enthusiasm of a person who's not good at picking up on social cues. So we're creeping ahead. I finally get up to the booth, and the Department of Homeland Security guy leans out, and he asks for my passport. He takes the passport from me, and he asks the standard list of questions, if you will. Citizenship. Canadian. Where are you going? Toledo, Ohio. Why are you going there? Work. What do you do? And so I launch into the spiel. Well, I'm an ISO 9001 quality auditor. What I do is I go into companies and I ascertain whether or not their procedures follow certain international standards. Then what I do is I identify their documents and records to see whether or not that supports. Now, by this point in the story, usually they're waving you through like a third base coach sending the runner home, right? So he puts up his hands. He's like, okay. But he has a few more questions to ask. Actually, this guy's got a quota, or he's curious, or he's bored, or something. And he says, well, who do you work for? And I tell him who my employer is. He says, well, do you have a business card? Now, here's something interesting. Back in the day when I got into the whole comedy thing, I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to translate the professionalism of my day job into this performing arts thing, comedy, MC, storytelling, and stuff like that. I decided what I needed was a really professional marketing plan, if you will, real professional website, business cards, because that's why George Carlin and Richard Pryor became famous comics was, they had that sort of thing. So he says, do you have your business card? Oh, well, of course I do. I reach into my suit, my briefcase, which is on the seat next to me. I fish one out, transfer it to the left hand, and hand it over. And it's just as I'm doing this part that I realize, oops, that's the wrong card. It's not my day job business card. It's the comedy MC writing business card. And as he's taking it out of my hand, what I'm thinking is, no. But it's too late. He takes it out of my hand. He looks at it. First he does this. And then he does this. And he says, sir, park your car in spot 6. And I'm like, oh, no, dude, no, I'm sorry, it's a wrong card. Park your car in spot 6. No. Like, Jesus Christ, okay, oh my God. So I drive my car over because I got the office over there and the parking spots for people who have been bad, right? I park my car in spot 6, and I'm just barely putting it into park, and there's 3 guys coming out a door for me. One of them stands by the driver's door and does this. And the other 2 guys are kind of waiting. They're ready to poise. They're poised to strike. I don't know, oh my God. So open up the door. The one guy kind of takes me by the arm and he starts leading me in. The other 2 guys just jump into my car and they're fucking tossing it. They're pulling stuff apart. They've got my suitcase. They're looking under the cushions and stuff. I mean, I didn't have anything in there, but if I did, they would have totally found it. The guy brings me inside, and they've got this very institutional-looking waiting room, if you will. It's beige walls, kind of peeling paint, and there's chairs like this, like steel folding chairs around the outside. He takes my passport from me, he takes my cell phone from me, and he tells me to sit down. So I sit down. My knees are shaking. I am absolutely terrified. This has never happened to me before. I've never even been arrested before. I have no idea. And I'm looking around. There's very desperate-looking people in the waiting room with me. They're like, I don't know what they are. They're like drug smugglers or like human traffickers or internationally wanted criminals or people who exceeded the cigarette limit when they tried to cross the border. So I'm kind of looking at them, and they're kind of looking at me, and I'm sitting there for 5 and 10 and 15 minutes. And oh, my God, my heart is just... It's up here, and it's down there, and it's moving around inside my torso. And then they come and get me. Jones! That's actually that's actually my last name. And they bring me into an interview room. It was right out of TV in the movies. Oh, my God. It was like this single room. There's a steel table. There's 1 chair for me on one side of the table, opposite the door, and there's another chair for an interviewer on the other side of the table. They sit me down. I sit in there going, oh, Jesus Christ, what's going to happen to me? Oh, my God. And finally, a guy, border guard, Department of Homeland Security, comes in. And he starts asking me questions. He's got my passport. He's got the offending business card. What's your name? What's your citizenship? Where were you going today? Why does your business card say something different other than what you told the guard? And of course, I'm, you know what? It's just a mistake. This whole thing I do, it's kind of a sideline. I do it for fun. It's no big deal. You get the business card made up because, I have, these pointless hopes. It's not, it's nothing. He keeps grilling me about my employer, where I go, who's paying me, what am I doing, da-da-da. It goes on for 20 minutes. It's every bit as stressful and exhausting as you might imagine. Just draining. I was absolutely drained. And then he gets up and leaves. Another 10 minutes, I'm sitting there in this interview room by myself. And then a different guy comes in. And here's what he launches into. What's your name? What's your citizenship? Where were you going? why did the card that you handed the border guard disagree with what... Well, you see, it's like I told the last guy, this is all true, and it's just a little sideline. It's just a business card. I'm just a douchebag. It really is. It's not a big deal. I'm really sorry. He grills me for another 10 minutes, and then he leaves. 10 minutes goes by. It's hot in there. Sweat's starting to bead down. I was getting a little frustrated. The door opens, and in walks, as God is my witness, the first guy who'd interviewed me. It was like Groundhog Day. He sits down opposite me, and he says, "What's your name? What's your citizenship?" I'm like, I tell him my name and all this kind of stuff. I'm just a douchebag. I go through the whole thing. And he gets up and leaves. Now, folks, when authority shows up, I got to tell you that I'm the kind of guy who rolls over and bares his belly like a cowardly dog, okay? If you need somebody to stand up to the man, I am totally not that guy, all right? When the revolution comes, I will be cowering in the corner. What can I say? That's how I roll. However, at this point, I was starting to get pretty frustrated. I had been in the border station at this point well over 2 hours. It was hot. I was sweating. I was frustrated. I didn't have my cell phone. I had already missed my first meeting. It just kind of pissed me off. They had taken away my cell phone, so I couldn't call the people whose meeting I missed. And I hadn't done anything wrong. For all that there was a bit of a miscommunication here, I had broken no rule, no law. You know in the cartoons, when a cartoon character starts to get upset, and sometimes what happens is their body starts turning red from the feet up? Like if Elmer Fudd is pissed off at Bugs Bunny or something, and going up here, I kind of felt like that was growing up there, and I was really trying to push it back down and stop it from coming up because I knew that getting angry wasn't going to get me anywhere in this process, but nonetheless, up it came. Well, now the door opens again for the fourth time. No, a different guy comes in. He's older, he's balder, he's got a few more accoutrements on his uniform, so I figure, oh, this is a boss guy. All right, this is good. We're making progress here. I'm moving up the ladder. He sits down, he looks at me and says, "What's your name? What's your citizenship? Where are you going? Why did this card disagree with what you told?" At this point, I'm sitting there in the interview room like this. Oh, my Christ. And I'm answering really sarcastically. Well, you know, like I told the last guy, as I've said several times, so on and so forth, answering his questions, and he's getting very inquisitive. And finally, he asks a question I haven't been asked before. It's kind of a strange question to this day. I don't know exactly why he asked it. He says, looking at the card, "Well, I mean, how do I know you're a comedian?" And the red hits the top of my head. The steam shoots out of my ears, and I look up and I say, "Get me an audience." That was not the right answer. He looks at me really pissed off now. And these people have like batons and guns and tasers and stuff. And he gets up and he goes out of the room. And all of the red drains down out of my head and down out of my body and through my feet and into the floor. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm fucked. They're going to beat me up. They're going to arrest me. They're going to stick things in my bum. I don't know. I'm thinking, do my parents know a good lawyer or proctologist or both? I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen to me. I'm so screwed. They're going to ban me from the United States. I'm going to lose my job. Oh my Christ, what the hell's going to happen to me? 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by. I'm alone in this interview room. Every minute feels like a year. It was brutal. I'm torn between total unadulterated fear and resignation of the potential of being probed or something. And then the door opens, and the boss guy comes back in, and he's got one of the border guards with him, and then another one, and a fourth, a fifth, and then an administrative secretarial type lady, and then another border guard, and then a couple of people who've been sitting in the waiting room, actually. And they were carrying chairs. And they set the chairs up in 2 rows of 4 on the other side of the table from me. And they all sit down, and there's a few people standing behind them. And the boss man, who is kind of standing off to my left and leaning up against the wall, looks at me and says, "All right, funny guy." And I was completely speechless and tongue-tied at exactly the moment in my life when that was probably the worst time for that to happen. I'm sitting there thunderstruck, and all I can think to do is look back at him and say, "You have to introduce me." So this guy, to his credit, he picks up my passport, he looks at it, and he says, "All right, folks, this is Richard Jones. He's Canadian. And says he's a comedian. Take it away, Richard." So, I'm pot committed. I stand up and I say, "Hey, folks, it didn't look this purple in the store." And I get about that level of laughter. So I tell another joke and they laugh a little bit, and then I tell another joke, they laugh a little bit, and I tell another joke, and they laugh really hard. And it was the best 10-minute set I've ever done in my life. Oh! I told all my best jokes about the swinging balls and the cat poo and the fish and stuff, and they were howling, and the tears were rolling down their faces. They were slapping their knees. They thought it was the greatest thing they'd ever seen. And I finished with the closing act, which is the airline pilot joke. "And folks, when we get close to Calgary, I'm just going to point the nose down to the airport, hope for the best." And they're laughing, and I say, "Thank you very much." And they stand up, and border guards are slapping me on the back. And one of them hands me my passport, and one of them gives me back my briefcase and my stuff and whatnot. And I think some of the human traffickers were slapping me in the back. And my head is spinning because I have never gone from this far to this far this fast ever before in the history of my life. I can't believe this is happening. They're practically pushing me out of the border station. "Have a great day, Mr. Jones. It's fantastic." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm saved." And then I hear the boss guy go, "Mr. Jones, it's a trap." I turn around and I'm like, "Yes, sir." He says, "Mr. Jones, you know, we're having a Christmas party in November if you wouldn't mind considering coming back and play it." And that was my experience at the Ambassador Bridge. You guys have been great. Thank you very much.